Imagine if over the next 5 months you lost all the extra weight, had to buy new clothes because nothing fit anymore, and actually liked what you saw in the mirror. You'd feel lighter, stronger, more confident than ever. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack effort. They fail because they focus on the wrong things. These 9 habits are what I'd like on immediately if I wanted to get down to 10% body fat fast, without burnout, misery, or quitting halfway. Let's break it down. So the first one I call the gravity load effect, or GLE. So G stands for gravity boost. We are adding weight to your walks, also known as rucking. This forces your muscles to activate more. It forces your muscles to actually work a lot harder during your walks. Now, if you already have a lot of weight to carry, maybe you don't add this at first, or maybe it's just something simple like a drawstring backpack with a couple water bottles in it. Something to help you burn 2 to 3 times more calories while walking. Now, granted, a couple water bottles probably isn't going to do that, but if you build up to, carrying 30 pounds in your back, you're going to be scorching calories just during your walks. The L stands for low calorie and high burn. The extra resistance amplifies your calories without feeling like it's a whole lot of extra work. And that's where the low effort specifically comes in. Is, of course, you're walking, you're giving effort, but you're not giving any additional effort. You're still doing the walk. And the E stands for efficiency hack. So you're still just doing that same exact walk, but now you're burning more calories. Like I said, 2 to 3 times more calories. And if we can amplify the amount of calories that you burn just sitting there, we'd want to do that. And we're going to talk about some things that are going to do that. But also, if we can amplify calories while moving, we're going to want to do that. So just more calorie burn is going to give you exactly what you want. This isn't just for calorie burning, though. It's also going to build endurance, strengthen your posture, and condition you while you lose fat. Like, you're going to hold on to muscle because you're weight bearing. It's all really a win-win-win. I would start light, somewhere around 10 to 15 pounds. Like I said, a couple water bottles, something like that, and then progress over time. Slowly add something. You could even have a system behind it. Like, every week I'm going to add a water bottle or something, and then eventually you could go to like 5 pounds. It might be kind of tricky at first to add that weight without like buying a bunch of ruck plates. So all you need is a backpack, take a blanket and wrap like a 5 pound, plate in it, and then, or a 5 pound dumbbell, and then the 7 pound dumbbell, and then the 10, 8 pound dumbbell, 10, whatever you got, all the way up until eventually you need a ruck plate at like 25 pounds or 30 pounds. Ruck plates are nice because they are pretty thin and you just throw them in the book bag and it doesn't feel like it's pressing up against you. Eventually a dumbbell's like too heavy to do that and it sits all the way at the bottom, whereas the ruck plate disperses the weight. But you don't need that at first, and really could get away without it. But without controlling how much you eat, cravings will still get the best of you, whether you're walking or not, whether you're rucking or not. So that's where this trick comes in. So this was like a real game changer for me and is for my clients a lot as well. And it's something that's so simple. And this is just like, this video is about habits that is going to help you and change your life. So this is the standing cutoff trick. You're going to eat less without even trying. The problem is that it's easy to overeat while sitting comfortably and watching TV or, binging a TV show or something like that, zoning out. It's so easy to overeat and not listen to your body's hunger signals. The solution is eating meals while standing up, naturally preventing overeating and keeping you more aware of fullness. Now, if you're like, dude, that sounds horrible. I mean, that's kind of the point. I'm not trying to give you things that you're like, oh, this sucks. But I mean, come on, it's not that bad. You're standing up while eating. It is totally going to help you keep in mind, like, am I done? Like, am I allowed to sit down yet? Because if I'm still eating, then I still have to stand. And it will reduce the calories that you take in. And that's what this is all about, right? Is getting you results and helping you to achieve this dream of losing off all this body fat. So this definitely shortens meal times. Like, you're less likely to eat for an hour. And so that's kind of nice. It keeps you in tune with your body's actual signals because you're more aware. Instead of you comfortably sitting and zoning out, you're just more aware of how you feel whenever you're standing up. You could, if you can get away with it, like a walking pad, or I don't know, if you have a place around your house that you're able to walk, you could walk as well. That will also help, and that'll burn even more calories. Bonus benefit is that it obviously burns calories standing up, so that's kind of nice. It also increases post-meal movement. You're already up, making it easier to walk instead of stumbling, onto the couch and just kind of sitting there and just staying there all day. So this is like how I would use it, maybe. I've already made some suggestions, but eat your main meal standing in the kitchen or, at a standing desk. You could work. I guess that would defeat the point because then your mind's distracted. So be aware and be present. I was thinking like you could do this while working, but actually that probably defeats the point. Any snacks you have or whatever, also be standing up, but obviously it's not going to take nearly as long, so it's not as big of a deal. It's really for the meals to make sure we're not overeating. And I want to make it clear, it's not that you're like, oh, I'm tired of standing, so I'm going to stop eating even though I'm still hungry. It's just making you more aware of when you're not actually hungry anymore. And so let's say that you end up eating a small meal and you're hungry again in 2 hours. That's okay. You just have to, like, if you're truly hungry, stand up while eating again, and then, make sure to be done whenever you actually need to be done. But standing isn't going to be enough, and we don't want to feel like we're forcing exercise. So what if you actually enjoyed what you were doing for your exercise? We got to move, we got to burn some calories. So let's get into that. So I call this the border collie effect. This is something that I am pretty new at. I'll put some B-roll up of me doing it, but this is rope flow is what this is called. And I just love this. I can't wait to share this more with you whenever I get better at this, but I think this is just such a cool thing. So the border collie effect, the reason I'm calling it that is because a border collie, if you don't know, they're very active. They're work dogs. When they're locked indoors, when they're like stifled, they get restless, they, start pacing, they get anxious, they need to move. But the moment they're outside, they're running, they're flowing naturally, they're in their element, and they kind of let out that energy. And I think our bodies are a lot the same way. Even if you've gotten used to not really, doing a whole lot of movement, I think it just feels so good to get moving. And the positivity that comes from that is really going to help you lose weight. So forced rigid exercise, that feels kind of unnatural. Enjoyable movement like rope flow keeps you active effortlessly, really. It's kind of fun. Now I'm going to be going over this more in the future, but there are dedicated YouTube channels to rope flow. I'm not saying rope flow is going to be the thing that helps you lose all this weight, but man, it is going to be so cool. So let me get into why I think this is going to be so helpful. This is added on to a healthy diet and a good exercise program. This is kind of effortless exercise, enjoyable exercise, but it doesn't burn the most calories. But I do think it is an awesome tool to have. So let's get into why this helps. I'm going to be reading off my phone here a little bit. So it turns movement into fun, like an automatic habit. And that's something that as you progress in rope flow and as you learn it, it's something that you actually want to go practice and do. And I think that's so important. It's going to boost your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and that's without much effort. Of course, walking is not much effort either. So you could just replace this walking if you're like, I don't want to do this rope flow stuff. But I do think the rope flow is a little bit more fun. So it's going to be keeping you active more all day. You could do these rope flow, 3-4 times a day for 5 minutes, and that's really going to help. It also is going to improve coordination and body control, improve your shoulder flexibility and your core strength and the coordination of your core with your arms and everything. It's just something that's cool to have. It's not directly going to help with your fat loss, probably to be more coordinated. But of course, if we can be more coordinated, possibly less injuries, things like that, that's going to help as well. It also relieves stress and enhances mood. I am foreseeing, because this is pretty new to me, that rope flow is going to be like a meditative practice that I am, envisioning success and kind of not literally meditating, but like taking that moment to relax, de-stress. And with fat loss, that is going to be something that is so important. If you're stressed and you got your hormones all out of whack because you're all stressed and you're all anxious about, your fat loss or your work or whatever, this is going to be a way to kind of de-stress. And I almost see it, like I said, almost meditative, where you can relieve some of that stress and just kind of leave it all out there with this is starting to get too corny, but leave it all out there with the rope. And so that's kind of how I see it. But fat loss is more than just movement, and tracking your progress the right way is what makes all of the difference. I truly, truly believe that. So we're going to talk about your oh my gosh, can't talk. We're going to talk about your body's daily report card, and how that is going to change if you build this habit of getting a daily report card from your body, how that's going to change how you progress the rest of your fat loss. So I have a past client, his name was Jake. He was really frustrated with his weight. He specifically was a guy that was frustrated with his weight going up and down by huge spikes, even though he was doing all the right things. And I know that's extremely frustrating, especially whenever you see a spike and you're like, but yesterday was like my best day all week. And that's just how the body works. It's something we have to kind of get used to. So even though he felt like he was failing, he trusted me, he trusted the process, and he did what I asked him to do here, which is tracking your weight daily. Even if it jumps up and down, just trust me, track the weight daily. Over time, he saw a pattern, and that's what we're going for, is to see the pattern. I'll kind of explain that a little bit more after the story. But instead of panicking on like a spike up, he focused on his weekly average. And that is what just really takes away the power from the scale. And he watched his true fat loss progress as he was able to zoom out. After about 5 months of trusting the data, he was down 31 pounds. There was no stress, there was no sabotage, there was no giving up, because he trusted the process. And that is just what I want for you. Daily weigh-ins give us the ability to do this off data-driven fat loss instead of an emotional approach to it, where if your weight is up, you're letting that dictate the rest of your day. You don't want the scale to bully you around. And so this data-driven approach where we're able to zoom out and see the pattern of fat loss, and we're able to take our weekly averages, or really you can do median or average, it doesn't matter. So cross out the highs and the lows, and the median weight is what you're left with. But it doesn't really if you just zoom out and you see the pattern, that's going to give you your average, and you're going to see, oh, my weight is on the way down, and that is what is important. The number on the scale isn't the goal, especially if you're trying to build muscle and everything at the same time, which I highly recommend, and I talk about that in a lot of my other videos. The trend over time is what matters. And the weight loss, if you're building muscle at the same time, the weight loss might feel slow, but you might feel so much better in your own skin. You might feel better in your own clothes. And that's because the scale isn't the gospel truth. It isn't 100% true, but it is a tool that we use. I also don't want to say that it's not useful, but it's just not 100% true. You got to remove the emotional attachment. Treat it like checking your bank account. It's just information. Now, if we check our bank account and it's low, of course, that does hurt. But imagine checking your bank account every day, and even though it might be on the lower end, you see that it's kind of slowly creeping up. That will help. So don't let it have emotional power over you. I think the solution that people use a lot is don't let it have emotional power over you, so don't check it. And the number one habit that people who lose weight and keep it off have is checking their weight. So I think by checking it more often, it'll lose its power because you see, oh, it's up, down, but it's down, And maybe I'll put on the screen right now this is a current client, their weight loss graph. Look how up and down that is, but they are down. They are losing weight because this stuff works. Tracking your weight is just one part, though. This next habit is about making better food decisions daily, and that's what keeps fat loss moving. It's the consistent, better decisions. I call this the 10-minute food rule, and so this is mainly for snacks. Your meals are kind of planned. If you're hungry and you're like, man, I want something outside of my typical planned meals, ask yourself, if I had to wait 10 minutes, would I still want this thing? And be honest with yourself. This is going to stop mindless eating and actually forces you to be conscious about the eating decisions that you make. Instead of just, I'm going to alleviate this craving or just this snacking desire, ask yourself, if I had to wait 10 minutes, if I, was in a bus and it was 10 minutes until I got home, would I be craving this? This is also going to help eliminate emotional eating or late night binges because usually giving it time, the power of that craving dissipates. If the answer to this question is no, then find a better option or drink water first or go for a walk, anything like that to get your mind off of it, because the thing is, it's in our mind, and if we can wait 10 minutes, maybe you literally wait 10 minutes till having it. If you can wait 10 minutes and the power of that craving has gone away, then, it was never something that you needed in the first place. And that will get easier, though. I also don't want you to think that you have to do this every time you have a craving. That power that those cravings have over you, I'm telling you, oh my gosh, it gets so much easier. And I want that to bring you a lot of hope. It's not like you have to fight this your whole life. You get so much better at this. It's just built into your head. I'm telling you, you got this. But even if you have the right foods, you're able to avoid cravings, timing your meals around movement, I think is so cool to accelerate fat loss. It'll help with blood sugar and stuff. We're going to talk about that, but I think there's an even better reason. So a 30-minute post-meal walk flattens blood sugar spikes and reduces fat storage. That's because you're controlling your insulin and stuff, but ultimately at the end of the day, it is about calories in, calories out. If you don't have enough calories to build fat because you burn too many, then you won't build the fat, you'll lose the fat. And so the greatest thing that I think this helped with is, if you go back to the first thing, you were standing while eating to begin with. You're waiting 10 minutes to avoid temptation and all that stuff. You're doing rope. If you combine all these things, it's a lifestyle of not overeating and adding movement. And that combination is just going to, of course it's going to control your blood sugar, but it's going to help you lose body fat. And I'm so excited for you on this. So if you go for a 10-minute walk after every single meal, and it could be, it could be like 5 minutes in your basement. It doesn't matter. Just something to get moving. You're going to burn some extra calories, and those calories aren't going to be a huge difference maker, but I really think it's the positivity of, not only did I just make a good decision with my meal, I feel good about myself that I'm doing the right thing and increasing my movement. This will definitely improve digestion, lower your cravings, and increase calorie burn, all in one. Again, though, I don't think it is the action. I think it is that the positivity that comes from, I did this, I am in control of this. And that's what I talk a lot with my clients about is, I tell them, hey, this isn't me doing this. This is you doing this. You are, sure, I gave you the habits and sure, I gave you the plan, but you're following the plan. The power is in your hands. I don't want them to feel like, oh, I'm getting lucky this time. This is that you have control. Whenever a person feels like they have control over their life and their situation, I find that they get so much better results, in anything, but definitely their fat loss, but their career or whatever as well. Eating slower is another thing that can be just as powerful as choosing the right food. So the next habit is actually going to be to set a 10 to 15 minute timer to slow you down. It's not that you can only eat for 10 to 15 minutes. It's that you have to eat for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, we were doing the standing rule earlier. And so this might, in combination, just feel like, oh my gosh, like I have to eat so slowly. But again, this is increasing the awareness of your hunger signaling and helping you to naturally eat less. If you finish your meal before the timer ends, then your job is just to stand, pace, until the timer ends to decide if you want more food. And that's the habit, is simply taking 10 to 15 minutes, setting a timer for 10 to 15 minutes every time you eat a meal. Cardio is still very important. We talked about walks earlier, but this is kind of like a mini hack for you to increase your daily movement. I call it Microzone 2. This is for fat loss without burning out. So Zone 2 cardio is low intensity, fat burning cardio that you can sustain for a long time. Think of it as just going for a walk or rucking like we were talking about earlier. Instead of long exhausting sessions, break it into multiple exercises or workouts per day. It's not really a workout, so I'm struggling to call it a workout. But like I said, it's like a micro workout. So walking at a moderate pace where you can still hold a conversation, it keeps you in an optimal fat burning zone. It can be really light pace. Just add 5-minute walks throughout your day. Now, we kind of already talked about this, adding walks at the end of meals. And so this could be that as well, but I'm talking additional walks. This is something like during a lunch break or, during your breaks at work or whatever. Just increasing this movement. You could start to see a pattern between a lot of crossover between these habits, where really we're just increasing your movement like crazy, and that is going to help you so much to lose your body fat. I promise, follow these habits, you're going to be losing a ton of fat. I think possibly the most important habit on this list, though, is precision tracking. We can't depend on our body. A lot of these habits have been to be in tune with your hunger signaling, but research has shown time and time again that we can't really trust that in the end. And so all those things, all those eight tips paired with this tip, I think is going to make a huge difference. So the scale, in this case, the food scale, never lies. Weighing food in grams instead of eyeballing it removes all the guesswork. On the label, there is going to be grams right to the right, I think, at least in the US. And I'm not sure if it's a different measurement system in other countries, to be honest. I guess I should have looked into that. But right to the right of, 1 cup is going to be the number of grams. I think for fat-free Greek yogurt, for instance, it is 3/4 of a cup as a serving. Instead of measuring out 3/4 of a cup, and then there's all this Greek yogurt on the side of the measuring thing, and you don't know how to actually get all that out. And it's just all this big confusing thing, plus you've dirtied another dish. You just put the Greek yogurt on the scale, press the tare button, now it zeroes out, right? And then you scoop it out and into whatever you're eating, or into a recipe or whatever, until it says minus 170, because I know 170 grams is, it's 170 grams is a serving of the particular Greek yogurt that I use. Almost all food labels have this. In my experience, milk and ranch don't, but and olive oil. No, olive oil. I don't know. Maybe it does. Olive oil is like 14 grams per tablespoon. Ranch is usually about 17. If it's a gram or 2 off, who cares? And then milk, I'm not sure about milk. I guess I just do measure that. But your goal with the food scale is to make it easy to get an exact measurement of what you're eating. This will eliminate unnecessary restriction, because I find that if you just do the habits that we said before, a person a lot of times can actually undereat because they don't know. And I can't even claim to know that, okay, yeah, this is exactly the calories I need. That's intuitive eating. I don't think that's actually a thing. I think a person can get better at it. But you could end up eating too little. And by the end of the night, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. It might be because you were so in tune with your hunger signaling, you only ate 1,000 calories and you need, 3,000. You're going to be starving. And so I find that people tend to undereat if they're too aware. Or maybe they kind of subconsciously lie to themselves saying, oh, I was done, but really you're not done, in the name of fat loss. And so this really helps reduce unnecessary restriction and then making you feel like you're starving by the end of the day. If these habits feel like too much all at once, or you just want a different way of looking at it, I have the complete system that I use for my clients. I'm going to link that right here. That is what I call my dial system, and it helps you dial in all of these things. It talks about it in a different way. It's not all of these 9 habits. Really, it's kind of like the most important 4, and we dial in those dials, and that's how I run with my clients, and they all lose weight.